Uh, Good morning, all our audience. Good morning. Good morning to YouTube listeners. Make sure you subscribe. Facebook, make sure you log on. Our radio stations. This is a live call-in show. You could call in at 317-239-1310 during the show. And after the show, of course, you can call, if you have legal issue, contact us on Tuesday at 317-631-5151. Today we have so many topics, and we have a superstar panel again, starting with that superstar lawyer from LA, Milton Grimes, famously represented the icon Rodney King, the superstar analyst, legal analyst, master's in tax, cybersecurity expert, past president of the National Bar Association, Vanita Banks, just a wonderful contributor. And then today we have a special guest, the past president of National Bar, Dean Frida Robinson. Quick story. I was watching TV and the contingent Judge Brown hearing, and there goes Dean Robinson right behind her. I thought it was historic. But today we have so many topics to cover, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time with the introduction further. We're going to talk about Judge Brown confirmation, Jenna Thomas, Clarence Thomas' wife, Will Smith, assault and battery, and many other topics. So let's get started. First with Dean Robinson. Dean, how you doing today?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it is good to be alive at this moment.
Well, I saw you in the audience with your blue dress and your white pearls on. You were looking great, Dean. Right behind Judge Brown. What was the atmosphere like?
Well, I was highly honored. Excuse me?
Yeah, what was the atmosphere like in that room at the confirmation?
The atmosphere was, the atmosphere was joyous from those you couldn't necessarily tell. People were, of course, very quiet and very respectful of the Senate hearing room. It's very small, so that I was honored to be, to even get an invitation to be there live. The atmospherics from some of the folks, some of the senators, was expected. We sort of, were respectful and just looked, but with every break, it was clear we were, it was like family. We were very excited. It didn't matter what race. We just knew that this was at a moment in history that was significant and was not to be taken lightly. And that was one that we wanted to enjoy, and nothing was going to defeat our effort, which was to have her confirmed as the next Supreme Court justice and the first Black woman to take the seat on the highest court. And so it was one of those moments Nathaniel and Vanita and Milton can recall. We sort of, if you recall, the night that Barack Obama sealed the election, the first one. So you were amazed, wonderfully amazed, immeasurably proud, transfixed. But you then knew, wow, we've waited 100 years, and here it comes. She was extraordinary. She's obviously well qualified. She handled the questioning straightforwardly. She did not get shaken. When you saw her tears, it was because Senator Cory Booker was speaking to her about knowing and understanding the moment and understanding where she was and understanding her travel. But I was really so greatly impressed by her legendary calm and judicial poise. She belongs on the court. No hysterics. She only kind of gave that look, which, we understand. She sort of looked at them and said, which to me was, I'm kind of worried with this, but I got this. So it was glorious.
Well, the one thing that was one of the truism about the hearing is that in recent memory, we've not had a candidate for the highest court with the extraordinary credentials like the prior three Trump appointees, their resume was so thin and to be appointed to the court versus what hers was. But so even the more conservative senators, they applauded her credentials. So now we have somebody who is highly qualified. And so I saw that they were nitpicking and things that I thought was a little bit outside of the bounds. They were saying that they want to see a confidential citizen report. That I realized that in order, that's why it's confidential. You have to get the victim or the criminal to waive their rights. So you can't get that type of evidence.
I agree. And I was particularly offended by that.
So what's next in terms of the nomination process? Give us a quick overview.
We're on the way. On the 5th, she will have, the 4th, I'm sorry, scheduled for April 4th. The Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled to vote on whether it's what we call advanced Ketanji Brown Jackson Supreme Court nomination. And that was announced by Durbin on March 23rd. We knew it was coming. Even if she does not get a majority or all voting for her, the Republicans, clearly some have said no, they would not. Still, Durbin is going to report it out, if you will. And so the goal is that before the Senate, full Senate's Easter recess, which begins on April 8th, we will meet that goal that Biden said he wanted her confirmed by April 9th. So there's a few steps that will have to occur in the Judiciary Committee, but the votes are there to have her advance to the full Senate, and our expectation is that the full Senate, we will have her confirmed because the 50 Democratic senators, unless some bleed out, will vote for her, and then the tie broke, you only need 51, will be done by the Vice President of the United States. So we've got some joy this week to really plan, and I was sitting on the side behind her parents, embedded with the White House administration, and as we were leaving for one break, her mother and her father, who was stoic and regal, the mother sort of turned to me and just said, "What do you think?" I said, "Dear mother, start planning for the party. We got this." And she just smiled. So this is a once in a lifetime. We get to see this. I'm glad my grandchildren and my children could see this. So all is well. What we have to do, however, is every single person that is listening needs to absolutely send a message to their senators. And I'm sure Nathaniel Lee, you can put on your website the call in and the emails that you could send, because we need all of our senators all over the country to know we're watching them. This is, for us, very important, and we need to know that before the primaries in the general election.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for that report. Now, moving on the same topic, our research analyst and superstar co-host, Vanita Banks, tell us about this controversy of the Supreme Court, the likes of which we've not seen with what appears to be open corruption in the judiciary. Jenny Thomas, wife of Associate Justice, the highest tenured Supreme Court Judge Clarence Thomas on the Supreme Court, is a trumpet. What do you know about that, Attorney Banks? Okay.
Attorney Lee, thank you. What we know is that Jenny Thomas has been texting Mark Meadows, Trump official, urging him to overturn the election. And we also know that Judge Clarence Thomas has been ruling in cases involving the election. He was the lone dissent in the Supreme Court's January order rejecting Trump's argument to withhold documents from the January 6th panel. And so her text suggested, and I quote, "Trump should not concede the election. It's time for the army who is gathering for his back." I mean, this type of involvement and engagement is just simply unacceptable. And at the very least, and as you know, there have been calls for the impeachment of Justice Clarence Thomas this week. AOC called for his impeachment, but the very least, and or resignation, but at the very least, Justice Thomas needs to recuse himself from any cases involving the national election. And then also you may be aware that there are really no ethical guidelines for the Supreme Court. There is the ABA Model Code of Judicial Conduct, but it is outdated and needs to be reformed. But at the very least, and I would say it's a lot more than just an appearance of impropriety in this case. And certainly Justice Thomas needs to recuse himself from any cases involving the 2020 election.
Well, so that audience would know what is critical, on the 8-1 Supreme Court vote, it had to do with the disclosure of text messages or emails from Mark Meadows, who was the chief of staff for President Trump. The only justice, obviously, congressional oversight has a right to these public records, but only one Supreme Court justice voted against it, was Clarence Thomas. But the vote against it was a direct blockage, attempt blockage of his wife's text to the White House. And in the history of our democracy, I don't think that we've ever had such blatant conflict of interest that has not been punished in some form or fashion. In this case here, Janet Thomas also received money from these right-wing conservative causes who oftentimes have cases before the court. So now we have, then the article further showed that she met with the President Trump often, made recommendation of people he should fire and people he should hire. So now we have a Supreme Court justice wife setting policies and procedures at the White House. This separation of power is going amok here. Milton, what do you think? Is this crazy stuff, or, I mean, it's the likes I've not seen before?
Before I address that, I'd like to ask, is Dean still on?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, if this senator from, I believe it's Maine or Vermont, a Republican who declared, I read recently, a day or so ago, that she found Jackson to be very qualified and was going to vote for her, would that seal the election of her? I mean, the nomination of her?
Yeah, she's going to get it anyway, because you only need 51 votes, which, which McConnell himself put in, but hers would be 52.
Yeah,
so,
well, my point was that Kamala Harris wouldn't have to vote if she does that, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
But you figure, I mean, I don't know what the thought is, but if I was a vice president and I'm still young enough to maybe be in the mix the next time around, I want to be on record of having voted.
I see.
That it's only supposed to be, she only is allowed to vote or supposed to vote if there's a tie. So if there's no tie, she doesn't get to do it.
Right.
But that doesn't mean she can't say anything like, "This is a wonderful day." I hope she just speaks out. They do whatever they want to.
Okay, the other point that you asked me about, Nate, I guess the four of us are kind of fortunate. We witnessed Obama election.
Right.
And now we are seeing a Black woman, the mother of our race, be put on the highest court in the land. It's a chilling effect in a positive way to experience these things. We witnessed the reaction to the Simi Valley verdict 30 years ago on the Rodney King brutality case. So we're witnessing a lot of history here, folks. As to Clarence Thomas and his wife has a right to have opinion about anything she wants. I don't understand, and I'm glad it's being revealed more, the rule for federal judges' recusal. They recuse themselves. The panel doesn't meet, the chief judge doesn't decide it. They decide whether they are going to be recused from a case. It is the most archaic, backwards, my daughter don't like me to use this word, retarded system I can imagine exists, and it still exists. So Clarence's arrogance will not let him recuse himself, just like their arrogance, the other justices won't let them recuse themselves from deciding big corporate cases, even though they just come back from a mega vacation of 2 weeks of thousands of dollars for the same corporation that they're deciding the case against. So we got some rules to change about our system still. And I won't speak personally about Clarence Thomas, but I better shut up.
Well, here's one of the problems that I have that's reported in the paper. Janet Thomas, his wife, has a portfolio of 25 million in cash reserve. Mm-hmm. She has 15 million in investment portfolio, consists of 12 stocks. But here's the source of her money. She is a consultant for the Heritage Foundation, some conservative causes. So it just seemed that this process of her earning millions of dollars is tied directly into opinions that he's written at the Supreme Court, right, which is, I think, is problematic. I just don't think in good conscience that we should overlook this fact. So I believe that a Supreme Court judge.
Could I say something else, Mr. Yes. Nathaniel Lee, Attorney Nathaniel Lee? This is a singular, important kind of case. These emails are related to the insurrection, the attempted overthrow of our democratic system. This wasn't just asking him, will you please recuse yourself because, you know, your wife is on the board of such and such, and we just think you should. It goes to the heart of, will we continue as a democracy? Will we have one rule for everybody? And or is it that the individual, the people who were on the ground and didn't have the money while she was, you know, at the hotel or her house, whether they have to be subject to hearings, subject to criminal process of insurrection or treason, while everyone who was in the White House and had connections and have money don't have to do anything. Because let's be clear, this was a major event. How can these folks have pulled this off without major money and major organization, right? So it's even, I mean, it's just, you know, do we take a stand now? But remember, they asked Ketanji Brown Jackson, would you recuse yourself on the Harvard cases, discrimination case, because you're on the Harvard Advisory Board? And she said, I intend to. So here we have the juxtapose where it is, I agree with you, Mr. Grimes, that this is, and Ms. Banks, that it is inconceivable that there is no rule, and maybe this is the time when we have to get one,
right,
that says a Supreme Court justice must must do it.
Yep.
Well,
I
go ahead, Attorney.
I think that this current situation loudly cries out for ethical guidelines for Supreme Court judges, period, full stop.
Well, my concern is that the mass amount of contact in the conservative industry that generates millions of dollars in fees. And so these same entities present cases to the Supreme Court where they're supporting these causes, such as we have controversial things coming before the court, like the abortion issues and all these critical issues in which these conservative ventures are supporting, pouring in millions of dollars. And now you see that she has direct ties to those, and I'm concerned about that. So I think that this revelation in those text messages is the tip of the iceberg. If this is information that was done just to overthrow the federal government, what else is going to come out when you start doing searches of this sort? What about all these other cases that come before the court? Does she have indirect involvement with some of these other entities that had arguments before the Supreme Court? I like for them to dig a little bit deeper, take her before the committee and find out who else she's sending these texts to. If she's in the office of the President of the United States and directing traffic as to who he should fire and who he should hire, that's a dereliction of our Constitution. And we have separation of power for a reason in this country. The reason we have a democracy is that we have a judicial branch of government, legislation, so an executive branch, and they are co-equal partners in the pursuit of democracy. And I think that when you combine the two, that it does a disservice.
Nate, the rule that applies to state court judges is not only if there's actual prejudice or bias or conflict, but if there is an appearance of bias or prejudice or conflict, the judge has to be recused in order to give the appearance of a fair justice system. In the federal system, it goes from the trial courts, the district courts, all the way up to the Supreme Court. They do not adhere to that rule, and that's ridiculous. So my point is that this particular situation exposes again the hypocrisy of our judicial system to allow a sitting judge to decide on a case where he has personal interest, where his bedroom is influencing his decision, is ridiculous.
Well, panel, what's the solution to this crisis we're experiencing right before our eyes? Obviously, this is problematic. I see this as critical to the way that democracy functions. We have a sitting Supreme Court judge basically look like he's advocating overthrow the federal government. I mean, this is crazy stuff. But what's the solution? What should Congress do, if anything, about this?
We have to change the law.
Absolutely. We need ethical guidelines, period.
Yeah.
I so agree with Vanita Banks, who's really an expert in this area, that the time is past for saying the Supreme Court is so supreme that they can have one member who they can't even make do anything. There's no embarrassment. And remember, it's not only that is his wife giving opinions and all of that. I completely understand that, okay? I'm not in favor of saying that she can't express to him her opinion.
Right.
But I'll say this. She's making an extraordinary amount of money each year and has been. He is benefiting from that. And in one of their conflict and disclosure forms, they left out the fact that she had earned something like $300,000 from the Heritage Fund. Now, for most Americans, that's far far more than their family earned. But they omitted it. Why wasn't it on that required form? Well, you lawyers, you trial lawyers know the answer. The best thing to do is they can't say you lied. You can just say, oh, I forgot. And I think as we've done, African Americans, white Americans, Hispanic Americans, and Native Americans, what we've had to do, Black Americans, so many times, stand up and save America, teach them what true democracy is. And true democracy is that the Supreme Court spouse should not be able to, avoid having the disclosure that she was involved in at the time, communicating with the White House Chief of Staff about an ongoing insurrection and had done so the weeks before. And the ordinary American would never have been able to even get past the switchboard. And we know that there were senators and others who were trying to call Trump and say, call this thing off, stop it. And he wouldn't take their calls. But she was able to get through to Meadows.
Wow. Now, the next subject that exploded in the news this week was the Oscars. It was something to see when the famous actor, one of my favorite actors of all time, Will Smith, decided to slap Chris Rock. Now, being a martial art guy myself, it was not the type of slap or assault and battery type matter that really result in injuries, because the technique he used, Milton, was deficient. But
open hand.
It was more indignant and insulting and embarrassing, and I particularly am offended by it. But go ahead, Nate.
But see, the technique he used, though, Milt, his arm was not stable enough to cause injury in terms of punching to hurt somebody. It was not the type of thing, it was slap, but it's embarrassment. It's to get your attention, but it's not the type of
right. It wasn't
battery that caused harm.
Right.
Because he didn't have enough. Yes, it's assault and battery, but it's So what do you think? I see that. First of all, Milton, you were out there in California. What happened? Give us a quick rundown of what you saw. You saw the event.
I was busy doing something of more interest to me and called into the TV room to watch this, see this, and I'm going, that was staged. But okay, that was my reaction. And then I'm going, okay, they're going to clear it up and they're going to laugh about it in a second. But they did not. And I guess Will didn't have time to clear his head from the walk from his seat all the way up to this platform where Chris Rock was. I thought it was a bully mood. I'm sorry, Nate. I like some of Will Smith's work. I understand Chris Rock has a somewhat of an illness that has him saying things about people with no control. I don't know anything about that, but Brother Smith's action did not demonstrate to me an anger, which was supposed to be the motivating force behind his action. So I just didn't like it. I thought it was a bully act on his part. I respect our women as much as the next person. There's a lot of history about Will Smith's marriage and the openness of it and the things that they have participated in. And maybe that was brewing in him when people speak about his wife. I don't know. But the basic thing of him going up and just putting his hand inside this man's face did not express an anger. And it seemed to me it was something he could have held until, hey, brother, come over here. I want to talk to you in the back. You follow me? When that time was available.
Attorney Banks, what do you think?
Well, I think that Will Smith Obviously, in that moment, and only Will Smith knows what motivated him at that time to approach the stage and slap Chris Rock. It's his action that evening, and I found myself texting, friends and family asking, did I just see Will Smith? I said punch Chris Rock, and I thought it was staged as well. So he obviously lost it in that moment for whatever reason. And it was sad for me because when you look at the level of excellence and exceptionalism between both of these gentlemen, Will Smith and Chris Rock, it was just sad for me that whatever the dynamics were in that moment, that they were demonstrated and played out in public on the Oscar stage for the whole world to see. We know that Will, Chris, and Jada, they've had a relationship over 30 years. Jada and Chris have appeared in movies together. And of course, Chris Rock appeared in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. This is years ago. This is not characteristic of the behavior that we've seen of Will Smith over the years. I must say that Chris saved the whole show because he kept his head, right? It reminded me of one of my favorite poems, if you can keep your head when all around you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. And it's just conjured up so many issues, cultural and social and racial issues that people can't seem to stop talking about. And, on every show, many shows that I've seen, the host will say, it's a shame that we're still talking about this.
Yep.
Instead of talking about, the other special moments and triumphs at the Oscars. For example, the first deaf male actor to win an Academy Award, etc. And my question back is, okay, well then why don't you talk about that? Why don't you talk about those moments, right? Why don't you talk about the first Black executive producers and all the other highlights of the show? It's you, media, that's talking about the slap, of course, that was seen and heard around the world. And so from my perspective, there's hypocrisy, on so many levels.
Dean, your thoughts?
Yes, my thought, I was looking at it at first, because the visual was this. Will Smith, he just had that, if you will, that swagger. I won't, this is, others are listening, so I won't get into the family language. He moved very slowly. It was deliberate. He had time to cool down.
Yes, he did.
But he had, right. So then he did the slap, and he turned around and he walked back triumphantly to his seat. And then he sat down and he hailed, expletives across, the bow twice, which he could have, if he had stayed in his seat from the beginning, he still could have done that. I thought it was an assault. And then I sort of put it to my students yesterday, my Black women intensive cohort, and they said that this was about his ego. Mm-hmm. This was not about him trying to indicate what the boundaries were with respect to protecting his woman, his Black woman. it was, and these are law students. It was about him saying, I'm not going to let you talk about me or anything that is mine because I'm the king of mine. Okay? So it was very interesting. And I know a lot of people have a different view on it. I thought it diminished his stature.
Yep.
But Chris, I thought, he held it. He's going to wait. His tickets are up to $8,000 when they were $200. And
$40.
yeah, what we need to talk about the other phenomenal things like that executive producer who had produced an extraordinary show. All of this, I'm sure Hollywood will work out. Will Smith, he resigned from the Academy. I thought because did they tell you you're going to lose that award, which I didn't think would happen, but who knows? But I think when we are constantly saying we should not have black on black assault, crime, any violence, that we can't really control everybody else. But as a family matter, we can say this is not acceptable. If Bobo does it at the family reunion, we stop it and we call him out.
Thank you.
So
Thank
I'm
you,
just saying,
Dean.
I feel so. Yeah, the wrong lessons being shown to the students. Let's just say, look, it was assaulted. That's all right. We understand it. We'll let other people take care of it. But
Here,
anyway, that's my view.
here he's going to win the Academy Award for Actor of the Year, and in a role that was beautiful, and he put some doo-doo on it like this. It was just shameful to me. And Nate, you've been angry. I've been angry. I studied martial arts to Shotokan for 2 years. What the hell was that? It wasn't an expression of anger. Come on, guys.
Let's take a quick caller. Our callers are lighting up. Let's take a quick caller. Caller, you have a question or comment for us today?
How you doing, Brother Nate, and all you two phenomenal guests? This is refreshing. There's some grown-ups really talking because the pulse this week on this network has been horrible from adults. Tina has had to endure. Grown folks, listen to me, guests. 60, 70, 80-year-old people agreeing with this. It's been horrible. Poll come out the other day, 52% agree with it. I would like to break that down to white, black, Asian, because Sikh and everything else, because we know we have a lot of more peaceful-minded people. I would probably say if they broke the poll down, probably 70% white probably didn't like it, and probably 60% black probably did. It's really a shame to me. I'm just throwing it out there. But we have young people. I coach baseball. I coach soccer. I coach basketball. We talk to young people. Starting in Riverside, April 13th, matter of fact. Telling people right now, we have to deal with trying to teach your young people, especially black young children, to control themselves. In police stops, don't get heated. Stay cool. Keep your Fifth Amendment. Ask for a supervisor. Keep your hands proper. We have to stay under control at all times. And he distributed a lack of control. I'm from the streets of Gary, Indiana, almost 60. And every of my classmates and friends we grew up with looked at that. It was a punk move. You do not get credence in the streets for slapping or beating up on someone because, first of all, they jiving. Because we all learned how to jive back then. I mean, I'm really good at it because I wasn't the best, but I learned how to get good. Okay? We only had a little rule to stay off mama. Stay off your birth mother. That's pretty much the rule. But nobody else was off limits. This man has a rap vernacular like no one else. He could have got up there and thought of a good, quick joke back. Everybody would have laughed, and it would have been no big deal. But my mother, who's an attorney too, like you all, said you can do what you choose to do in life. You can do anything you want to do, but you have to be willing to accept the consequences. From what I'm hearing, especially from black people, and attorney, Adams, but your lady attorney, Tiffany Cross has all these women on right now who see this as standing up for a woman. I'm glad I heard what you said because it's the total opposite. It's the total opposite for standing up. My mother said, ain't no in the world she'll let my father got up there and embarrass her. You have to know time, place, space, and situation. That's not the time, that's not the place, that's not the space, and that's not situation to do that. She wouldn't allow them to even embarrass her, himself, any of the family members to even act that way. This is a real sad learning instrument, but it has to be used for a learning experience for our people. We see the responses at police stops and schools and everything else with people, police or whoever, teachers or otherwise, not keeping their cool, and people have to learn to keep their cool, and that's what martial arts taught me, Attorney Grimes. It taught me how to learn and keep your cool. Martial arts will be a great teacher for all things right now, and chess.
Well, thank you. Let's take one more caller, then I got to get one more commentary. Okay, next caller. Hello?
Lawyers, attorney, this is Pierre. Hear me, Nate?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, sir. You want to know what the consequences were for this from Attorney Grimes, right? You text that, right?
What?
Well,
You want to know what was the consequences of the slap? You know, like what's the statute of limitation for a misdemeanor? Go ahead.
Oh, I want to know out there in LA, you mean to tell me that a LA cop or whoever the commander was at the Academy Awards that night can watch somebody get assaulted and tell the person don't want to press charges? So, I mean, is that the way?
Well, they need the cooperation. We don't know what the communication, the understanding was between those two people. And if Chris Rock doesn't want to press charges, that's his right. And it wasn't a violent act that caused physical injury. It caused embarrassment, maybe, but he has profited a great deal by this embarrassment. Like Dean said, his tickets went up from $200 to $8,000. I thought it was as low as $49 or $48, Dean, that I read in the paper. I don't know which it is, but so I don't know. I doubt if Chris will press charges, sir. But yeah, you're right. If an officer witnesses the assault, witnessed the crime, they have the authority to arrest you if they witnessed it, a misdemeanor. But I don't know if people clearly understood it to be an unconsented to assault as the way it was done. You follow me, sir?
What about yes, I follow you. And what about a personal lawsuit? What would happen if Chris Rock decided to sue?
Chris, he could sue him, but again, what's his damages? I think he gained a lot of money anyway, but he did get insulted as a man, and that's one of the other things I was offended by, the difference in their size, probably is 100 pounds. It was just a bully move. That's what offended me.
Okay, let's take one more caller because our phone's lighting up. Okay, caller, your comment. Hello? Producer, we lose our caller?
Hello?
Yes, I can't hear you. What do you say? Hello? Miss Pat? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
I feel that a lot of people put Will Smith and all the other actors and actresses up on the pedestal like they can't do anything wrong. They're human people. They're going to do wrong. They're going to fall. And I feel that Chris Rock and Will Smith both are to blame for this. Chris Rock should have known that was going to anger somebody. You have to pay attention to the consequences of when you open your mouth.
Well, Miss Pat, what about this?
He didn't have the right to go and do that. Like they said, he should have waited till after the show to talk to Chris Rock.
But Miss Pat, what he said was she would play in the next G.I. Jane 2.
Time on this instead of time on important things. Get over it. It happened. Move on. Why do you keep talking about it?
Oh, well.
But
showing the younger people that it's okay to keep bringing the situation up instead of solving it and moving on to the next thing.
Well, maybe we haven't it's only been a week.
Miss Pat.
I mean,
It's too long. I mean, there's more important things to talk about. The war in Ukraine.
Miss Pat, I got a quick question for you though, ma'am. Do you know what he said?
Just give it too much attention. What for?
Well, like the young man said before you, we need to use this as a learning experience or teaching experience for our young men and people. You can't hit somebody every time they say something you don't like.
And Nathaniel, can I add something that I think is lost here? We have not mentioned.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
Jada
Dean.
Pinkett Smith looked gorgeous. Her hair, she was the epitome of glamour. And what nobody is talking about. Yes, this is very painful for her. But you're talking about a beautiful woman. That was a beautiful woman sitting there. And the others who voluntarily or not, Vanita and I know a former ambassador to the United States. She's always had a bald head, and she's from, Botswana. She said, I don't get it. This is a beautiful, and I understand the pain of an illness no one should be laughing about. But we have not heard people say, Jada Smith looked beautiful. She's a beautiful woman. She's always been, and now she's regally beautiful. And I'll just leave that, about what the conversation needs also to be about, which is her.
Absolutely. And of course, there's a long history regarding African-American women and our hair. And we do know that the Crown Act was recently passed to prohibit discrimination based on how women decide to wear our hair. The other thing I wanted to I agree with the last caller, some of her points, and just wanted to add that Chris did not use the prepared jokes. Will Packer spoke to this in his interview with GMA this week. He got up there and started to quote what they call freestyling. So how is it that, he makes this joke about Jada, right? And they do have a history of Chris making jokes about Jada. I was wondering, quite frankly, and I agree with the caller, the violence is unacceptable. That's not what we want to teach, as well as the fact that martial arts does teach control and composure. But I just found it interesting that Chris opted not to use the prepared jokes, decided to, freestyle, in that moment, and have that focused on Jada.
Well, in concluding comment on this issue, it would be a crime, probably under California law, but what would be the typical statute of limitation if someone does something like that in your state? Do they get a first offender program anyway, Milton?
It's a 3-year statute. They get a slap on the wrist, excuse the pun, but I'm sure he's not going to be charged.
But even if he was charged, it's the type of thing whereby if you get convicted of that assault and battery misdemeanor, you get your record expunged after a period of time. So,
yeah,
but the other thing though is that what he said, I was listening to it. I mean, I have a confession. I would not have even watched the show except for the controversy. I saw but he said that she would be in G.I. Jane 2 movie. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking to myself, I guess there's something personal because it didn't sound like to be the typical offensive type joke in the first place.
Demi Moore had a shaved head in that movie.
Right.
So query whether that was, what he was alluding to. And, penal code for battery, California, it's a
240.
misdemeanor.
242.
242, you could serve up to 6 months in county jail, but you could be court ordered to anger management, supervision, community service is more likely.
Wow. There's a lot of important issues that we didn't get to cover today. I know just briefly, Attorney Banks, you want to briefly mention the Emmett Till law and the Florida Don't Say Gay law. Real quickly, give us a quick 1 minute overview of both of those if you can.
Well, just on Emmett Till, the Emmett Till Antique Lynching Act was passed last week, and President Biden signed the act in the Rose Garden, accompanied by members of Emmett Till's family. After 200 attempts, we finally have a law in this country, which is long overdue, making lynching a hate crime. And we want to thank, although there have been many, many past efforts, Congressman from Illinois, Bobby Rush, in introducing this bill in 2019. It had been earlier introduced by Vice President, when she was a senator, Kamala Harris, as well as Cory Booker. And we should put on our agenda next week our discussion regarding the Parental Rights in Education Bill. This is HB 1557, which prohibits the, quote, instruction or discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity in grades kindergarten through 3rd grade. And so we should reserve some time on a future show to discuss this controversial law in a lot more detail.
Well, I like to at this time thank all our audience on all our stations, our radio stations, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also our callers. I think that we have some of the most informed callers in the country of any show, and I thank you for your participation. Also, one additional announcement. I told you last time that don't forget to have your kids sign up for the Indiana Golf Foundation summer program. It's free. And please join us next week. Next week will be continuation of these important legal topics. And thank you, and stay safe, and make sure you take the booster shot, and may God bless you. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye all.
Thanks for having me.